Alright guys, so today I'm talking so like I mentioned in a previous video, this was kind of the big project I was talking about. This is a 6-liter that I picked up a few weeks ago, and since then I've taken it over to Klein Engines and had them do some machine work, some real basic stuff like just putting in cam bearings, redoing the freeze plugs, and he rehoned the cylinders, and luckily I was able to keep it a stock bore. So today what I'm trying to do is clean up the rest of the block. He was kind enough to wash it for me. They kind of have to when they machine it. But now I just need to go around the exterior of the block and hit it with a wire wheel, get it ready for paint. And clean up the deck surface, which I kind of have a real basic way. The deck on this doesn't look too bad to begin with. It looks like it's just some leftover gasket material and some oil possibly. Luckily the block isn't too rusty, and then I also have a thread chaser for the cylinder head bolts, so that's what I'm trying to get done today. And then eventually we'll move on to building up the short block, which will be the rotating assembly, the block, and possibly the rear cover. I have that too. And hopefully once it's all said and done, this thing will have flat top pistons in it. I've got Gen 4 connecting rods for it, and it's just a stock Gen 3, Gen 4 crank. I'm pretty sure it's Gen 3 because the guy told me that it's a 24 tooth reluctor wheel, and that's how it looked when I took a gander at it. Oh, I also took the crank to get polished, set by Klein Engines as well, and everything should be basically ready to assemble once I'm done cleaning it. So let's get after it. Kind of doing this around the worst time of the year for this. We're in monsoon season here, which means basically that we get a bunch of dust storms and thunderstorms. So you get sand everywhere. Doesn't matter in your car, in your house, in buildings, it really doesn't matter. So this thing's double bagged for that reason. And also I really don't want any moisture to get into this with all the fresh machining that was done to it. Really be kind of dumb for us to do all that and then for all this stuff to just flash rust on me. I'm gonna need an impact in 1 second. Let's see, do I remember what size these are? I'm gonna guess either 10 or 12. Let's start with 12. Nope, 13. Yep. Also, in case you are wondering, it is 6 a.m. and it's 91 degrees out. So, that's Arizona for you. So the plan is to probably douse it in some sort of degreaser. I like using Purple Power or whatever the generic big bottle version of it is I get from Walmart. And just spray it and then wire wheel it just so that the dust isn't going everywhere. Change the angle so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing, but I bring it a little closer. You can see that the block is pretty much 98-99% clean already, It's just little bits of dirt that didn't come off from the hot tank. So shouldn't be too much wire wheeling. It should come off relatively easily. I'll actually put you to this side right here. Just a real basic cut brush wheel on the grinder, on the drill. Set that bad girl to drill and just start wire wheeling. Oh yeah, a lot of that stuff's coming off really easy. Give me one second. This stuff is basically the same as Purple Power. It's Walmart brand. I have a big bottle of it. I just keep refilling this. I think I might just put you guys on a time lapse for this and take a second. One moment. Even though I'm kind of just haphazardly wire wheeling this, is this port right here for the crank position sensor. I kind of don't want to get too aggressive with that and put any big scratches in there. Even though it does seal on the bore, the inner bore of that spot, actually does seal on the O-ring. I think it actually seals on an O-ring on a flat surface out here. So it can't get too aggressive there. Probably put on the finer wire wheel and sort of go over it. Maybe even just do some red Scotch-Brite just to clean that up and then leave it. That way I don't either try and waller it out or make the surface too uneven. Because an oil leak there really sucks because you think it's your oil pan or a rear main seal and then you're just chasing your tail. So definitely be careful right there. If you have a third gen, or no, Gen 3 and Gen 4 blocks still have the crank position sensor here, the crank position that changes. Regardless, don't get too crazy here. The bolt hole, I'm gonna see if I can get some thread chasers to clean all the threads up just to make my life easier. This side's actually cleaner for some reason, so it shouldn't take too much wire wheeling on this side to get it to the same level as the other side, and then we'll move on to getting the deck surface nice and cleaned up. Done to completion now. Now I'll move on to decking the block, I like to use Street. Alright, so now we are on to the experimental portion of this, which is using a sharpening stone to hone the deck. I mean, really, this is probably the better way I've done this now. On the motor that's actually running in the car, I had this older gentleman that I used to work with. He told me, hey, if you find a flat enough piece of something and some sandpaper, it's gonna get it flat enough for the most part. Which might not necessarily be true with these LSs because they're multi-layer steel gaskets and maybe they need a different surface finish, but it worked just fine. And I've had multiple backfires and all kinds of silly things happening with that motor up until this point. And it's working just fine. We're a year later, no head gasket leaks, no losing coolant, no issues really. So I'm gonna try this. Another guy told me to try this. Apparently it's a little, well, this just seems easier in general because finding a flat piece of tile or something is a little bit more of a challenge when you live next to Home Depot. And generally speaking, Home Depot doesn't have anything that's flat. So let's try this. This is basically the cheapest sharpening stone you can get on Amazon for the most part. It says it right there. It's a 400 grit on one side and then it looks like 1,000 on the other. We'll start at the 4, and if that feels too crazy, I'll just switch over to the 1,000. I mean, does it need to be perfect? Not really, but I'd like it to at least seal. This actually feels like a lighter grit than when I did the LS or the Maverick, so this might be the ticket right here. It might save me quite a bit of time. Using the sandpaper and something else trick, unless you have a perfectly flat surface that you can stick a piece of sandpaper to, really sucks because you got to wrap it around it and then try and keep it flat. And if it's not big enough, it won't get the whole surface or enough of it to keep it flat. So this should save me quite a bit of time. And we're not going for taking off material. Really what I'm doing is just trying to get a consistent surface finish all across the whole deal. And maybe get rid of some of these, like where the water jacket was, you can kind of see a bit of rust. So I'm gonna try and keep it all going one way, but if I get lazy, you know, it is what it is. There is no rhyme or reason to me sort of doing that. I just think it works pretty good sometimes based on my previous experience of doing hack jobs like this. So, you know. I'd say that clearly this probably isn't the right way to do this. I know that, but you know, never hurts to try stuff. Just see how it might go. I mean, surprisingly, it seems like it's cleaning up all right. It's not really getting rid of this rust where the water jacket was, but you know, we'll figure it out. Man, I'm thinking I might not even have to flip to the 1,000 side. This is actually coming out all right. Just trying to keep it lubricated to an extent. Just keep this right here. Yep, not that way. Let's not do that again. No, very lucky that was on the chamfer. Alright, let's not do that again. If you didn't catch that, I caught the corner of this guy right on the very edge of the chamfer on the bore. So I'm gonna switch positions. Just keep it lateral rather than trying to go across it and call it a day. Because, yeah. See if I can get rid of this rust with the razor. So I would say that pretty effectively evened out the surface finish on that. That's actually a lot better than I was expecting. So I'm not even gonna do the 1,000 side. We're just gonna rock with the 400. Let's flip it over. Get back here. There we go. Try to run off on me. That way you guys can see what I'm seeing. Alright, round two. This side doesn't really have as much of a aggressive rust mark on it. Get this area right here near the water jacket. See if we can't expedite the process a little bit. Yeah, this side's not as crazy, so let's see what about that. You can see right here where the old gasket embossed to the word front into the cylinder head surface. Or deck surface, because the block. We'll probably only do this side maybe 2 or 3 more times, and that'll be it. It's actually pretty good on this one. I didn't get the exact cylinder heads from this motor. At least I don't think they are. So I don't really know how this thing came apart. When I picked it up though, it was definitely, it looked like a reman block, possibly. But being that the board's checked out as stock, nothing catastrophic must have happened, at least that I can see. So alright, unfortunately the GoPro died while I was trying to finish decking all the other surfaces. All I did was the same thing. I just took the stone, so the oil pan rail, the valley cover surface, and wire wheeled the starter pad. That was about it. So all I'm going to do now is just pressure wash it out, make sure all the grit's out of it, go over the bores with some ATF or WD-40, make sure those don't flash rust, and then we'll keep it moving. In 1 second. Get all the air out of this guy. If you ever use a pressure washer before, gotta make sure you bleed all the air out of it before you start it. This is one of them turbo tips. I've never had one before, but someone left it on there, and when I brought my machine back, so I'm using it. Sort it out of the way here. See if this thing will start. box is now cleaned up. Deck surfaces have all been stoned with the sharpening stone. Everything came out pretty good. There's a few dark spots, a few light spots. I'm not really too worried about it, considering that it's better than what it was, and honestly I was going to leave it the way it was. But sharpening stone tricks seemed to get a little bit more of a consistent finish than the sandpaper did, probably because the stone itself was flat to begin with. And all I did was pressure wash it like you saw, get all the grit, most of the gunk out that I cleaned off with the wire wheel, hit it with some of the more of that purple power, and hit it with some WD-40 after. WD-40, if I'm not mistaken, stands for water displacement 40. I'm guessing the 40th formula or whatever. Works good for this, honestly. Make sure the only thing I really wanted to make sure I got was the bores. I really wanted to make sure this did not flash rust. The purple power seems to oxidize stuff pretty quickly, especially when it's warm like it is now. So it's 7:40 in the morning and it's 90 degrees. It's actually, this is probably the coolest it's gonna get all day. So I'm probably gonna leave this in a bag open loosely, just so that it has some time to let the water all evaporate out of it and let the WD-40 kind of sink into it. And hopefully today I'll be getting some more pieces of the puzzle for this guy. I also took the time to take some of the main caps off. This would be 2, 3, and 4. Took those off. Made sure to clean them up, especially on these engines. I believe it's number 3 has the main bearing instead of like a standard small block Chevy has the, or not the main bearing, the thrust bearing in number 3. And then I guess small block Chevys have it in number 5, so it'd be the last one instead of the middle one. Just make sure to go in, clean it all out. Probably still going to go through. There's like these little tangs or little grooves. I'm going to pull this up here. There's like these little indentations here, or grooves, I'm not sure what they're called. But that's where the main bearing, they usually have a little tang, and it actually snaps into that, or sits in that, and that helps locate it horizontally to keep it from moving back and forth. Also, it just kind of locks it in so that when you're putting on the main cap, this bad girl doesn't want to just fall out on you, which is not ideal. I might be putting in the crankshaft here soon. I want to see about getting pistons. I might have a solution for that. And ideally they're going to be flat tops. Well, I'm pretty sure they are going to be flat tops at this point. So this block would have been stock as an RPO code from Chevy. Is either, from my understanding in the Gen 3 version, LQ4, and then later on it would have been an LQ9. I think the LQ9 was a Gen 4 style block, I'm not sure, don't hold me to that. But regardless, what I'm trying to do is build an LQ9 out of an LQ4 block. I know that this is closer to the LQ4 because the pistons that were in it had a fat dish in them. Like, just, I did the math a few times and I Googled it, and I think LQ4 blocks from the factory had like 9.5 or 9-to-1 compression ratio, which is not bad. By no means is that bad. That's actually pretty decent for a factory style engine. But then you move up to an LQ9, which from the factory had a flat top piston, meaning no dish at all. So you don't lose any compression, so you end up with about 10-to-1 or 10.5-to-1, somewhere in there. Obviously, cylinder heads do play a part in this, and in my case, I have the 799 cylinder heads that I think I'm going to use on this. And a little bit of math and a little bit of online calculator told me that if I use 799s with a flat top piston with this stroke and this bore, I should end up with about 10.5-to-1 compression ratio, which, if for the time being this ends up staying naturally aspirated, that would be really good, considering that it's almost a little more than half a liter of displacement compared to what I already have, and it'll just be better in general. This cubic inch actually fits better with my carburetor CFM as well. That's a whole different topic, but that would actually fit my carburetor CFM and be a little bit more suited to it. So either this is the end of this video, or you're going to see me here shortly with the rest of my parts. We'll see how today goes. But we'll end it off on that for now.